Welcome to this explainer. Today we're taking a fascinating and super practical look at a brilliant source text called Architecting the Resilient Mind. Now think for a second about a massive skyscraper staring down a Category 5 hurricane. It doesn't survive by accident, right? It survives because it was intentionally built from the ground up to withstand immense pressure. And today we're going to apply that exact same architectural mindset to our own brains. The source text actually digs into neuroplasticity, which is the brain's physical ability to rewire its own structure in just a matter of weeks. That literally means we aren't stuck with the minds we have today. We're going to carefully extract the key insights from our source material to see exactly how we can intentionally build mental fortitude. So get ready to look at your mind not just as something you happen to have, but as a structure you're actively building.
Okay, let's dive right into this. The absolute most important question you can ask yourself today is, what is your current level of resilience? Before we even look at the blueprints, before we gather our materials, I really want you to honestly reflect on your current mental fortitude. When the wind blows in your life, do you naturally sway and adapt, or do you start to crack? The source text demands this deep introspection right from the get-go, because honestly, we have to know our starting point.
Section 1. Assessing your foundation. These are the vital first steps to resilience.
So here are the exact foundational steps laid out in the material. Step 1 is to identify your own level of resilience, and Step 2 is to assess areas for improvement. Now, it sounds super simple when you hear it just laid out like that, right? But think about what this actually requires from you. It requires radical honesty. You absolutely cannot improve what you haven't clearly identified first. The text highlights a really common structural crack people discover during this assessment, and it's called avoidance behavior. Basically, habitually dodging difficult conversations instead of just facing them head-on. If your foundation has a crack like that, or maybe in how you process a personal failure, you've got to circle that on your mental blueprint right now. We really have to take a hard look at the soil we're building on.
The crucial point here is this, and let's just slow down for a second and let this really sink in. You cannot build on an unexamined foundation. Why does this personal assessment matter so much? Well, because if you skip this step, any resilient skills you try to add on later are just going to collapse under the weight of a real crisis. You are the architect here, and a good architect always surveys the land first. Finding your weak spots isn't a failure, guys. It's actually the single most critical piece of data you need to start building safely and securely.
Section 2. Strategies for strengthening skills. This is where we build the load-bearing pillars.
The text specifically instructs us to develop learning strategies, which it defines as the active methods developed for strengthening resilient skills. I love this phrasing because it implies that resilience isn't just a genetic trait. It's not something you're randomly born with. It's a completely tangible skill you learn, practice, and construct over time. These strategies are active tools. They're the mighty load-bearing pillars in our architectural blueprint that are literally going to hold the roof up when things get heavy.
And this brilliantly illustrates the very first strategy the text gives us, which is Pillar 1, positive self-talk. Think about architecture for a second. The internal frame of a building dictates its overall strength, right? Well, for us, that internal frame is our internal dialogue. The source text notes a huge physiological impact here. Intentional positive self-talk actually lowers cortisol levels in your brain. It's mechanically reducing your stress response so you can actually think clearly. It's like the steel rebar hidden inside the concrete. If your internal voice automatically defaults to, "I can't handle this," the pillar just crumbles. But if it says, "I'm learning how to navigate this challenge," that pillar holds strong against the wind.
That brings us to Pillar 2, goal setting. If positive self-talk is the material strength of the pillar, goal setting is the structural framework and the forward direction. A building needs a design, right? A clear purpose, a shape. According to our source material, setting goals gives your newly resilient mind a really distinct direction to grow. It pulls you out of this passive reactive state where things just sort of happen to you, and it puts you squarely in an active, forward-moving state. When you're facing severe adversity, having a clear goal keeps you anchored to your future, rather than just drowning in the challenges of your present. And here we have Pillar 3, self-care practices. This is the final specific strategy explicitly mentioned in the text. Now, I know sometimes people dismiss self-care as just, taking a relaxing bubble bath or going for a spa a day. But in the serious context of architecting resilience, the source text actually emphasizes setting strict digital boundaries and engaging in deliberate breathing protocols. We're talking about active neurological regulation here. Just like a massive suspension bridge needs regular inspections, rust removal, and tightening of bolts to keep from collapsing, your mind needs deliberate maintenance. Without these practices, for sure, even your strongest psychological pillars are eventually going to suffer from mental fatigue and give way.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 3, Architecting Your Mind, the completed blueprint. Okay, let's look at the complete resilience blueprint altogether. We've surveyed our mental land, we've carefully laid the foundation, and we've erected the load-bearing pillars of our mind. Now, we're pulling back to look at the entire architectural vision from the source text in one unified view. First up, we identify our current resilience level to know exactly where we stand. Second, we assess areas for improvement, finding those tiny structural cracks way before the storm ever hits. Then, we actively build our pillars. We develop positive self-talk to strengthen our internal framing. We engage in goal setting to give our structure direction and purpose, and we absolutely must maintain self-care practices to ensure our building survives the constant wear and tear of daily life. You know, this isn't just a bulleted list. It's a deeply logical sequence of personal growth derived straight from the source material. Every single step relies heavily on the one right before it to create a truly unshakable mind.
So, I leave you with this final thought. What will you build tomorrow now that you have the blueprint today? The source material gives us the plans, it gives us the strategies and the methods. But at the end of the day, you are the architect and you are the builder. Take the insights from this explainer, grab these strategies, and start pouring the concrete. Thank you so much for learning with me today, and I seriously cannot wait to see the incredible, resilient structures you're going to build in your own lives.